a chance to talk about this groundbreaking technology and how you think it's evolving. We'll continue the conversation with this incredible audience at the Digital Development Week that's that's basically gathering experts on a range of emerging technologies. Okay. They asked me to give them some thoughts around how can we incorporate a more inclusive approach to AI. And if AI is going to extend our ability to create concepts and link ideas and to share insights, how do we ensure that those insights are respective, responsive, and inclusive of persons with disabilities? So I'm going to talk a little bit about how this particular project, It's Our Story, can be applied and will be applied to develop one of the world's most comprehensive AI natural language models that, in a sense, elevate the lived experience and the cultural understanding of disability. Now, this particular project is very personal to me because I was born in Venezuela. And when I was a child, there wasn't an active disability community in Venezuela that had activated major legislative changes. In fact, at the time, I was denied an education because I was not able to walk, because I was not a standardized student. And so the teachers and the principals and the school system itself basically relegated me to a second-class status. But at the same time, an ocean away, in the United States, leaders like Judith Heumann and others had changed the laws here and mobilized people and really developed a cultural understanding of disability rights as a human rights. Because she was a civil rights issue. Now, how do we take that knowledge that was not only developed at one location, but spread throughout the United States, this movement of disability rights and advocacy, and capture it in a language model that really provides insights that are culturally relevant, that understand both the emotional and empirical, phenomenological, as well as legal context within which we experience disability, and how do we create new insights that are truly empowering communities with new knowledge. So here at the Digital Development Week, it's really about understanding what are the data sets, the archives, the insights that already exist, and how can we get those digitized so that they can be assessed through artificial intelligence and natural language processing. Now, the It's Our Story archive has been a massive undertaking that's been supported by my foundation to basically capture the lived experience of 1,500 people throughout nearly 200 cities and 50 states in the United States. That means that we have people of every age and demographic and geographic location sharing their own story and lived experience. What's unique about this archive is that it mirrors congressional testimony that was collected in the late 1980s by Justin Dart and Yoshiko Dart to bring to Congress and show the lawmakers how endemic discrimination was against persons with disabilities. And so these testimonies form part of the legal record that helped pass massive legal changes in the United States. And those changes were extended around the world through the development of the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. I am a professor of urban planning, as well as a two-time presidential appointee to the U.S. Federal Access Board. But I'm also an innovator, change maker, and technologist that understands the lived experience of disability and the need for us to somehow leverage technology to ensure we don't get left behind. This archive becomes a really interesting case study to adapt and adopt the experiences of marginalized communities into more specialized modules that can sort of leverage ChatGPT and other language modules to ensure an adequate representation and insights from a large and diverse data set of people that might have difficulty seeing, hearing, remembering, moving around. And it's not just a medical file, it's really a social file of files of social, education, employment, advocacy, politics, access, transportation. Now, how can these archives really be leveraged? How can these large data sets and big data projects really provide a platform for people with disabilities not only to share their stories verbatim, but to create sort of a new sort of collective intelligence or collective subconscious that could be attached to, insights into public policy or insights into education, school activities that can be really inclusive. So you could think of running specific queries based on this language model that really is nothing about us without us, which is a phrase from the disability community, but ultimately could really inspire future leaders within the community to bring this knowledge to the forefront of these new AI engines and these new personal assistants and these new agents of intellectual, conceptual, and data processing tools. Now, the Interstory Archive currently does not have all of its data sets digitized. A lot of these archives have been filmed over the last 15 years in audio formats and video formats. So there would have to be a massive transcription initiative to be able to get all that content together. And then the transcription needs to be structured in a way that these voices and these individuals, their identities can be protected and anonymized so that you wouldn't be able to track down individuals' lived experiences to a specific person. So obviously there are other questions about what is the best way to take these archives in a way that's ethical and secure and safe. But ultimately the challenge, the insight of these archives is to really challenge ableist stereotypes. And by ableist, I mean there exist racist notions, sexist notions, ageist notions. These are notions that prefer one type of person or lived experience over another. For people with disabilities, there are ableist notions that indicate that people without disabilities have a preferred place in society versus people with disabilities. So this archive tries to challenge that notion and really normalize this lived experience. Now, when you think about this archive, you should think about how can we apply insights of these archives. What could researchers do by querying or requesting insights from this archive? How can you put in a city council resolution and see whether the disability community right, would be in favor or opposed? What kind of critiques could this AI module provide to a new city ordinance, or to a new Netflix show, or to a new after-school program? What kind of insights could this diverse range of sources provide when we try to understand the nuances and trade-offs between, digital access, physical access, sensory impairments, physical impairments, people on the spectrum, diversity? What could some of the trade-offs be that we could identify through this incredible resource of perspectives? And how could this module inform public policy and really accelerate positive change towards a more equitable and just society? Now, I'm not saying that this archive or this AI module would replace community workshops and feedback, but it could accelerate those, engagements with communities, so that when you meet the community, you can already meet them, halfway. You can meet them understanding what their needs could be, and then you might validate those needs and perspectives. Now, when you think about corporate accessibility in companies, and the way companies or governments that are really responsible for large public engagement efforts, could this content perhaps be licensed to companies in a responsible way to really even advance software and have software be more inclusive and accessible? Could this accessibility tools developed through these insights help build better interactions? Let's say through your interaction with an Alexa device, or your interaction with automatic captionings in order to understand slurred speech and different speaking impairments. Could this archive potentially train other algorithms that relate to medicine, or relate to law, or relate to urban planning? So you might have different modules that interact together, like an urban planning module with all kinds of specifications on urban planning, with the module from this archive called the lived experience of disability. So this is a very interesting idea of how could this massive big data project that my foundation has been advancing really help us better serve the needs of persons with disabilities. Now, none of these approaches are set in stone, but they do hold promise to advancing our goals on sustainable development. When I was involved in negotiating the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, we knew that there was only 20 countries or so that had these national laws. And we realized in developing this UN treaty that the world had to sort of come together around a basic set of principles. So now there's 180 countries that have signed and ratified this International Human Rights Treaty. These archives, in a sense, help capture those experiences that shaped that International Human Rights Treaty, which is the lived experience of people with disabilities. And we took that knowledge when a lot of activists had engaged in the negotiations of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and ensured that the Sustainable Development Goals also had inclusion targets that would identify that people with disabilities could also benefit from mainstream international development. So, for example, Goal 3, the archive can help healthcare providers understand the needs and experience of people with disabilities, leading to improved health outcomes. The archive could help provide insights and recommendations into how educational institutions could differentiate curriculum for learners in different levels of learning styles, whether it's auditory, visual, sensory, and others. So there could be ways that you can use these archives and principles of universal design for learning to really do customized learning experiences. And in terms of decent work and economic growth, could a commercialized or an open source version of this algorithm help advance jobs, in the care industry that really allows people to get training and sensitization on home care, or perhaps allows, specialist doctors to really refine their bedside manners or how they interact with people with disabilities. Understanding reduced inequalities, could this archive produce strategies that can really increase awareness and targeted communication campaigns that would really mobilize communities to be on point? And ultimately, goal 16, to really strengthen institutions, including the rule of law, so that if there is a Black man that might be on the spectrum and is, unjustly being, incarcerated, as is the case with the high incidence of prison and criminalization of disability in the legal system, could this archive help provide insights into accommodations or understanding that could really change the course of that legal proceeding, almost as an expert witness in some of these cases, to help build better outcomes in institutions? In general, my friend Kat Holmes says that there is a mismatch. Disability isn't just a medical condition. It's a mismatch between the individual and their environment. And by creating a tool like this, we can really lower the mismatch and sort of, decrease the gap between the challenges and the failures of existing policies, programs, and designs, and rebuild societies and cities, companies, programs, services, laws that really respect the needs of everybody. I hope that you will join me in continuing this journey towards building a more inclusive, accessible, and resilient future, and connect with me at Victor Pineda, and look me up online and the work we're doing, so that you can take action on ensuring that AI and these emerging economies are not reinventing the wheel or taking us backward, but taking everything we know and compelling us forward without leaving anyone behind. Thank you very much.